I think I'm curious, how long was it from the brain injury to when you actually, because obviously part of your testimony, you got healed
Yes,
of that.
completely.
How long of a duration was that? I mean, you're talking years.
I'm talking 20 years,
Yeah.
20
So
years.
yeah. Well, the reason why, and I'll have you get into it. The reason why I asked is because, obviously that's not a guarantee for anybody else who's in a similar situation, but I know, and I've shared this testimony. There was somebody who wrote into me last year, and they wrote about this young girl named Carrie. And at the time, I think she had just turned 13. She was in a horrible car accident. Her
Mm,
mom, unfortunately, didn't make it. And then she was, her legs were broken in multiple places, but she also had a brain injury. And, I've given updates. I actually need to get a new update. It's been quite a few months, but same thing. This is your testimony, I know, is bringing hope to those people who watch this show, to continue to contend and continue to believe. So that's why I just think it's such a great, great, great testimony of God's faithfulness and his promises of healing. So, yeah.
yes, and there's, who knows why it took 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't have
Right.
a revelation of why it took 20 years. I know that, I mean, my story is I completely left my faith,
Oh, okay.
because of the brain injury. Because, well, I loved God. I was very angry with God because of what happened to me, and then multiple things. It wasn't just that I was hit by a car, and multiple times actually, and it directly targeted the things that I was created to do. So I used to dance, and then my feet were run over by a car. So that's why I became pretty upset with God. And I didn't really understand at that point, because when you're a teenager, I don't think you necessarily do that. It's not, God is not doing this to you,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why all these things happening? Why did it take 20 years? I don't know, but I was healed.
Yeah.
And there is power in this testimony, and we've shared it on Sean Bowles' show, and we've shared it with Bethel, and Bill Johnson shared it, and we've prayed with hundreds of people, and people have been healed. And that was my ask when I was healed of all the back injury. I was healed at David's Tent. Have you heard of David's Tent?
I have, yes.
With Sean Foyt. Later when I gave my life back to the Lord, and I came back in this kind of push-pull relationship of, I love you, but I'm afraid that if I love you again, all these bad things are going to happen to me again. I just learned so much depth, like in that whole, that things do happen to nice people, and that things do happen to Christians, and just because you have a love for Jesus doesn't mean it's not, but it's how do you process that with the Lord. And I also do believe he covers you, and he does protect you.
Yeah.
And if we could only see how much he's protected us,
Right. I've thought about that too. And even just whether it's me being protected, or even those areas where Satan tries to come in and go, you're not doing anything. You're not helping anything. You've never helped anybody. And realizing, hey, you holding the door open for some random person. I think that even those might have repercussions of God being like, that's exactly what that person needed in that moment. And that was what brought healing for them in terms of men. Even, who knows? You know what I mean? Like if I was holding the door open for a woman, who knows? It's not our job. There's no way we could know those things. And I think that God, I always think like when we get up to heaven, he's going to just show us this beautiful tapestry that he wove out of our lives.
Wow.
And be like, look, even this thing in your deepest, darkest moment, I used that for this person over here, And I think too, like that whole, if I come back to you, Lord, all these bad things are going to happen. I think that's a very real and raw and honest reaction. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. They may have found themselves in a similar place.
Mm.
I've even found myself in a place like that when I've gone through a really rough season, even walking with the Lord, gone through a really rough season, and then been like, something good happens and I find myself going, God, when's the next bad thing going to happen? Like you're almost waiting for the shoe to drop. And
Sure.
and God has just been so compassionate in those moments of being like, Jeff, I don't operate like that.
Sure.
Like those bad things that happened to you were not me,
Sure.
you know. And it can be, if we're not careful, it can be easy to fall into that trap, right? Of thinking in that way.
And that's a way of like, you know, renewing your mind, you know,
Right.
from
Yeah.
each day is different. And it's so important to renew your mind in the word, in your relationship with Jesus, in, you know what, I will not let foreboding take my day, because
Come on.
it can. And when you start to understand the spiritual authority you have, who you are in Christ, you're a child of God, you're a child of the King of the universe. Hello, now we've reached a different understanding of who we are, right? And so I didn't know that. Didn't have that relationship in that way with the Lord then. I understood he was loving, and he was, you know, I understood lots of ways about the Lord, but I didn't have the relationship, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just so important for anyone, whatever they're going through, brain injury or sickness, it's just like, Lord, where are you in this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to not give up hope, which is very hard to say when you're in lots of pain or you're struggling with whatever you're struggling with. It's really, really tough. But